Hey everybody, Coach Will here. So today what we're going to be doing is we're going to start off with some strength work. We're going to be going into goblet squats. We're going to do 5 sets, 6 to 8 repetitions, and we're going to be interspersing that during the rest times with hip openers. We're going to be doing 6 to 8 repetitions each side for that one. So you guys can be using whichever variant of squat you want. I'm going to be doing a duffel bag squat because I'm going to need it for the second exercise. That being said, nice stable position. Knees tracking in line with the toes. Control squat down. Again, we're going to do 6 to 8 repetitions. After those 6 to 8 repetitions, I'm going to be switching into the secondary exercise. Secondary exercise is just going to be focusing on mobility. I'm going to drop down to the ground, 6 to 8 each side. I'm going to start half kneeling position, knees tracking in line with the toe. I'm then going to open up through the hips, and I'm going to push my hip to one side, driving the foot, keeping that foot flat against the ground, having that knee travel in line with the toe. So depending on mobility of the hip, you can choose to go that 60 degree. You can choose to go close to that 90 degree if you have the mobility. Just focusing on hips, dropping over, control back to start position, and repeat. 6 to 8, gradually working on that overall hip mobility. After you've completed that, if you need a little bit more time to recover, definitely take 30 seconds, and then we're going to go into the second set of 5 sets for the goblet squats. Again, choosing a challenging weight, whatever weight you have available to yourself as well too. If you need to adjust the weight slightly or adjust the rep range slightly, that's completely fine, but ideally we should be choosing a challenging weight for this one. After that, we're going to grab a little bit of water, go into the next superset. We're going to go into 5 sets, 6 to 8 repetitions of bent over row, and then eccentric shoulder rolls. So using the same piece of equipment, nice and stable, I'm going to go into that control hinge, slight bend in through the hips, trying to keep that nice neutral back. The closer you get to horizontal, the harder it's going to be. Arms stay straight in that start position, driving elbows up towards the ceiling, keeping that chest open, and then repeat. Again, 6 to 8 repetitions. They squeeze between the shoulders, keeping that chest open, allowing the shoulder blades to dynamically move back. After you've completed 6 to 8 repetitions of that, we're going to go down to the ground and do our shoulder eccentrics. Now, with this one, start knees and hands up towards the sky, right arm down against the ground, perpendicular to the trunk. From here, I'm going to roll with my entire body towards the right hand side, lowering and controlling that roll with my right shoulder, pushing arm into the ground, back up to start position. Again, repeat. Control, roll, push back up to start. If there's any discomfort in through the front of the shoulder, make sure that you're rolling that shoulder back so it's pressed against the ground, keeping that chest open. 6 to 8 one side, 6 to 8 the other side. And then you're going to go back onto your bent over row. Again, completed that for 5 sets. After that, we're going to go on to part number 2. Part 2 is going to get your heart rate up a little bit more. We can work a little bit more on overall muscular endurance as well as coordination. We're going to be completing 30 seconds per exercise. And this is going to be broken down into 3 different sections. So section A is going to be 3 rounds. We're going to do single leg RDL, 30 seconds each side. And then we're going to go on a single leg hop to a cone or hop to a target. Now from that position, I'm just going to choose something that's visible. And we're going to do 30 seconds of that single leg Romanian deadlift, knee tracking in line with the toe. I like to use thumb on lower ribs, middle finger on top of the hips, keeping that line consistent. Chest gets packed, control hinge, set the clock for 30 seconds. If you lose your balance, put the foot down, regain stability, and increase, and repeat. After 30 seconds one side, 30 seconds other side, control hinges, and then we're going to go into a single leg hop and stick. Again, this is going to be 30 seconds each side. If you have knee-based issues, you can turn this more into a slow shift forward or even going into a split lunge or a split squat position. That being said, nice and stable, loading on my right side, control bend, catch myself, nice and control, soft landing, and then you can step back and repeat. Again, 30 seconds, focusing on that control stick, catch, flow back down to start, and repeat. After one side, you're going to switch over. Now again, to repeat, you're going to do this 3 rounds through both exercises. Again, 30 seconds each leg for both exercises. Part B is going to be 3 rounds again. We're going to be going into something a little bit new. Now you guys have experienced the plank before. We're going to make it a little bit more complicated by going into an adductor plank. Now for this one, you will need a small bench or a chair. If you have shoulder-based restrictions, I'll show that modification as well too. That being said, I'm going to start in a side plank position. I would recommend starting from the knee. We can always challenge by going full foot position, but start with that top knee resting on that block. Drive the hips forward so that the knee, hip, shoulder are all in line. That bottom shoulder is directly over top of that elbow. We're going to squeeze the knees together, feeling that tension in through the groin, and we're going to try to hold this for 30 seconds. Again, 30 seconds of one side, switch over, 30 seconds of the other side. Again, nice stable position. Push that bottom shoulder into the ground, bottom elbow into the ground. If you have shoulder-based restrictions, by all means, you can either choose to go from the shoulder, pushing that bottom shoulder in. You'll be a little bit more stable, making sure that you're not just collapsing onto that shoulder. Or alternatively, you can turn this into a stable position where you actually take a pillow or a bag of rice, and we can turn this into an isometric contraction where I am actively squeezing my top heel towards the bottom heel. Now again, the higher the space or the larger that space, if you have access to a stability ball, better for that. Again, if you're able to get closer to that abducted position where that foot is brought away from the midline and you have to really push down on that inside of that inner thigh, that's where you should be feeling it work. That's completely fine. Again, 30 seconds one side, 30 seconds other side, and then you're going to go into the secondary movement, which is going to be Blackburns. For this one, stable position. From here, lying face down on the ground, chin tucked back. I'm going to start palms up towards the ceiling. Bum is going to be directly underneath my hands if I can. I'm going to go palm up, bring my arms alongside the trunk to about just under 90 degrees, so just under, arms being perpendicular to the trunk. Palms down, and then up overhead, and then control back to start position. If you run into any discomfort through the shoulder, lessen that range. So that can even be based on restrictions, going up just to that 90 degrees or close to, and then control back to start position, or even initiating palm down a little bit sooner and then control back. Again, just playing on shoulder position, overall shoulder stability. Initiate by squeezing between the shoulder blades and letting those shoulder blades glide upward as the arms start to raise. Now again, like I say, 30 seconds that exercise, and then you're going to go back to the adductor plank, doing that 3 rounds through. Final part is going to be part C. This one's going to be 2 exercises again. We're going to go through a kneeling hip extension and a seated iso row. Now, the kneeling hip extension, 30 seconds for this one, like I say, 3 rounds. I'm going to start in a tall kneeling position. You can do this weighted, but I'd recommend practicing the movement first unweighted. From here, I'm going to push the hips back towards the heel, letting your body fold down. Very similar to a squatting movement where it's that control hinge. Hips go back, almost like you've got that karate chopping through the front of the hip. Again, everything's going to be nice and stacked. You've got your chin tucked back, your ears in line with shoulders, shoulders in line with hips, ribs down the entire time, and big drive up. Repeat and control. If you need to add weight, completely fine. Control down, big drive up, going for that tension, that big amount of force created through the hips. After that, we're going to end off with a seated isometric row. So you can be grabbing a towel for this one. Again, stable position. You can be going arms extended fully or slight bend in the elbow. Big squeeze, driving the elbows back to the wall, keeping that chest nice and upright. big tension through the shoulders. I would recommend only holding this for about 3 to 5 seconds, relax, and then repeat until your time of 30 seconds is up. That being said, you would then go back to the kneeling hip extension and repeat until you've done a total of 3 rounds at each exercise. After that, you would go through a cool down. Make sure you incorporate any stretching on areas that you might feel tension. If you need to throw in some extra core-based movements, that's completely fine. Otherwise, enjoy, have fun, stick with it. We're all in this together.